it's not real difficult to see that there's been a morphing from detention centers to concentration camps. And I'm a historian as well. So I know that if we don't draw a line in the sand with this atrocity now, we're going to be in big trouble later on down the road. Last year, when we did Families Belong Together March for Reading, over 300 people showed up. And we showed up to protest the family separation policy. You know what? That had an effect. They stopped separating families. Now we need to make an effect and stop concentration camp conditions in our detention centers.
We're honored to recite "Let America Be America Again" by Langston Hughes. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free.
America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above.
Shalom. It's nice to see all the candles out there. Shalom is a wonderful word. It is a word like aloha. It has many meanings. Hello, goodbye, peace. I think the message of peace encompasses all of it. We welcome people into our homes, into our country, in peace, in friendship. And when it is time for our good friends to be on their way, we want them to go off in peace. The roundups that are going to be occurring on Sunday are going to be anything but a peaceful goodbye. Speaking from the Jewish perspective, I'm going to back up for a minute. I want to talk about welcoming the stranger. A patriarch of Judaism, a figure who is important to three major religions, not only Judaism, but Christianity and Islam. Abraham is known for opening his arms and welcoming the stranger. Abraham didn't stop and say, "Hey, what country are you from? Do you have papers to be traveling this land?" No, he saw a stranger and he opened his arms and welcomed them with shalom. There is a midrash, you can think of it as a Jewish Aesop fable, that Abraham was sitting in his tent with the flaps open in all directions so he could see strangers coming. And he saw a man wandering, and he went out and he brought him into his tent, and he washed his feet, which was a tradition of greeting in the Middle East. And he offered him food and wine, and when they were all done, the stranger sat back, and out of his bag he took out an idol. Now Abraham was incensed, and he threw the idol out into the desert. And he said, "How could you insult me by bringing your idol into my home? Get out!" And he sent him back out into the desert, not in the spirit of shalom. And then God said to Abraham, "Abraham," and he said, "I'm here." And God said, "I have put up with this man's idolatry for 56 years. You couldn't put up with him for one day?" There are times when people have beliefs that are different than ours. Their ways are strange. They seem different. They are the other. But we all need to stop and take time to get to know them, to welcome them in, to see what it is that unites us. What is it that we have in common, instead of focusing on our differences? In 1939, there was a ship called the St. Louis. On board that ship were 900 Jewish refugees fleeing Germany. Things had already started to become bad for Jews in Germany, and they were seeking a way out. The ship traveled to various countries. They went to Cuba, they went to Canada, they went to the United States, and everywhere they went, these dirty, filthy people were turned away because they were others. The ship's captain had no choice but to return to Europe. Now, there were some countries that took them in, but not everybody survived. At least 25% of those people died at the hands of the Nazis. Many of the people coming to our southern border from Guatemala, from Honduras, they too face oppression and death at home. And we are just turning them away, sending their ship of sorts back to the country where they know they're endangered. As Jews, we say never again. But never again isn't just for Jews. It's upon all of us. We cannot allow these atrocities to happen again. And it's easy to do. Most of us don't live on the southern border. These people have been made out to be criminals. They have come here illegally. They have broken laws. And what do we do with criminals? We lock them up. They've brought this on themselves by breaking the law. That's what some of our politicians would want you to believe. But I look around and I see parents who run meth labs who are arrested and put in jail. Their children are not put into large warehouses with walls made from chain link fence. That is not the country that I am proud to be a part of. I had a conversation with another member of my congregation because he was not pleased that I used the word concentration camp. Concentration camp is a startling word. People say, you can't use that word. There aren't death camps. We're not gassing them to death. That is because in our minds, many of us have put together the term concentration camp with extermination camp. But concentration camps have existed in history long before Germany. There was a time when Cuba was breaking away from Spain. There were concentration camps set up. During the Boer War in Africa in 1890s to 1902, people were put into concentration camps. The Soviet Union put people into concentration camp in the 1920s. And in Germany, 9 years before the final solution started, starting in 1933, people were put into concentration camps. They're a place to put people who speak out, people who say things that challenge the government norms. They were political dissenters. They were people of faith traditions, and not just Jews. A good number of Christian faith leaders were put into camps because they were speaking out against the inhumanity, and the government didn't want them influencing people of moral conscience, people like you, from speaking out. Then, when there were fewer people to speak out, they started putting away members of the LGBTQ community, because obviously those people are odd. They are the other. If you had mental illness, you were taken away. If you had a physical disability, you were locked up. If you were Roma, Gypsy, murderers, rapists, those kinds of people, according to the government, you were locked up. And yes, if you were Jewish. The treatment of the children, especially in these camps, is horrific. In the camps here in our country, they are very much akin to the camps that the Germans ran, that the Spanish ran, that the Afrikaans, the Boers ran, Anytime people are confined against their will for being an other, are forced to live in cramped conditions that they cannot leave because they have been marginalized, because they are the other, those are concentration camps. You don't have to have gas chambers to have a concentration camp. Many people died in the camps throughout history because of these cramped conditions, very much like the ones we see on the news every day. The poem was up on here, but I wanted to read it. It was written by German Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller. Sorry if I've mispronounced his name. He felt guilty after the war because he felt he did not do enough. He said, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak. I'm not saying that our government is going to start reaching out and coming for more and more of us, but who is speaking for these children, for these immigrant families? They have been marginalized. They are seen as troublemakers. We need to speak out for them. Tonight is the Jewish Sabbath. Our Sabbath begins Friday night at sundown and goes Saturday to sundown. And the leader of the Reform movement has asked that this prayer be read tonight when we light our Shabbat candles, and I thought I would share it with you. God of the captive, God of the imprisoned and the detained, the voice of heartbreak echoes across the land. Children rejected at our sunset gates. The mother of exiles weeps for the innocent. Their journey to liberty bringing detention, deprivation, and death. Has compassion fled our borders? Has the lamp at our door been extinguished? Has justice abandoned her post? Source of comfort and hope, you call upon us to stand in the name of the children, to witness against the mistreatment and neglect, to fight a government that separates parents from minors. At the border of our nations, flaunting power, ignoring decency and law, allowing the innocent to die. Bless those who dedicate their lives to human rescue. Grant them the fortitude to battle in the name of the unknown, the unseen, those who cannot be forgotten. May the work of their hands never falter, nor despair deter them from their holy calling. Bless those in human bondage with hope and courage. Grant them the strength and the fortitude to face the indignities and privation forced upon them. Hasten their release. Grant them the lives of health and prosperity, joy and peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, sovereign to all, who releases the captive. When good men do nothing, evil flourishes. I see out there in the shadows of candlelight good men and women. Speak up. Let your voices be heard. Do not let evil triumph. Thank you. Shalom.
Yeah. The one thing that stood out to me that Jerry said tonight was she went back to the Torah and she talked about Abraham and the command to welcome a stranger in your house. And that's exactly what we do, is we welcome strangers into our land. Again, like I said, we're not calling for open borders, but we are calling for humane treatment to those people who are seeking a safer, freer place.
Many of our elected officials are breaking this issue down into a Democrat-Republican issue. It is not that at all. It is a human issue. We need everyone to answer the call of our future. We need everyone welcomed into this country, and this is a nonpartisan issue. It should be a bipartisan issue for answering those challenges, and we need to be working together to ensure that we have a path forward into our future and welcome these immigrants into their future here in this country.
What really was moving tonight was really seeing my community come out and take a stand against these detention camps, but really to see it in Reading. When we think about what this majorly conservative area. It's just sometimes being a marginalized individual and are wanting to stand up and be a voice within the community and stand up against some of the policies of this administration. You can feel like you're just one voice. And so when I showed up tonight and I saw my community, it was just a further reminder of, no, we're here, we're taking a stand, and not only are we taking a stand and speaking out, the rest of the community is watching this. So I just really appreciate the 150, 200 people who are out here tonight demonstrating that we care. We feel strongly that those people should be welcomed into this country and that those children should be cared for. Like Valerie said, we are not advocating for open borders. That is not something that anybody I know is advocating for. What we're advocating for is to protect the weak, to protect the poor, to protect those who have no one else to speak for them. And that's our job as humans. That's our job as Americans, and that is the charge of the Constitution and the Statue of Liberty, that we continually do that throughout our history and into our future.
It seems like, you know, we're out here a lot and we are protesting a lot, but this is an abnormal kind of administration. As a historian, and as most historians agree, this kind of administration, we can't let things slide. We have to keep drawing lines in the sand. And so that's why we're out here again tonight, to draw this major line in the sand and make a stand and say, we really need to clean up these conditions in the detention centers, because they are concentration camps now.